Reading doesn't just teach children to read, it teaches them to read life. Hello, and welcome to the Reading is Freedom podcast. I am your most gracious host, Ms. Sasha. The Reading is Freedom podcast is where we come to unlock our minds and reclaim our power. I wanted to just touch upon a few points in this particular episode that I think is extremely important and vital for us to understand in our quest to make sure that we're getting our children into reading. A lot of times, many people, we think that reading is only about sounding out words or building vocabulary or passing a test, right? If you don't learn how to read, you ain't gonna pass that test. I want to make sure that you do good on that test. Okay, that's part of it, right? But reading also develops something even more powerful, the ability to understand yourself, understand others, and understand what's happening around you. All right. Of course, we are in a world that's filled with distractions. We got the phones, we got the devices, we got all of those things, correct? And we need to make sure that our children have life skills. I think about one of the things in the Black community that we say to our children, especially as our kids start getting older and they're going out on their own, we'll say things to them like, keep your head on a swivel. Make sure that you pay attention to what's around you. That's a life skill. That's a survivor skill. That's a skill that in the Black community we are very well versed and familiar with because we know we are in a society that is anti-Black. And so we know we always have to be hyper vigilant and hyper aware of what's going on around us. And did you know that reading actually helps us to develop those skills every time we open up a book? And so what I want to share with you guys are 3 points that I want you to think about and remember when it comes to us reminding our children and getting our children into reading. So the first point is reading teaches self-reflection. When children are reading stories, they step into someone else's experiences. They see characters make mistakes, overcome challenges, and wrestle with difficult decisions. As they read, they naturally begin asking themselves, well, what would I do in that situation? Have I ever felt that way before? Was my reaction the same or was it different? Right here, this is building what is called self-awareness. Children who regularly reflect on characters and stories often become better at reflecting on their own thoughts, choices, and emotions. All right. Why is this important? Because when you self-reflect, now you become a person who responds as opposed to being reactionary. Now you learn how to process things instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to make a desperate decision. So that this type of skill can actually be cultivated, developed and cultivated through the act of reading. And one thing as a parent you can do, you can ask your child after reading, well, what part of this story reminds you of yourself? You know how a lot of times, we're quick to be like, well, what happened in the story? And, what did that character do? We start asking those kinds of questions, right? What happened? And, we're asking them things to try to get them to remember like different parts of the story to show that, oh, okay, you understood it, you comprehended it. But to take it to that next step, to take it to the next level, you can ask them things like I just mentioned, what part of the story reminds you of yourself? Now they are being challenged with thinking about, well, who they are. How would they have reacted in that situation? How would they have responded in that situation? So that's point number one. Point number two, reading strengthens intuition. This is a big one, okay? How does it do that? Good readers learn to make predictions. They ask things like, well, what might happen next, right? They start thinking ahead. Why did that character make that choice? Does something feel right or wrong here? Okay. These are some of the same skills that we use in everyday life. And intuition is God-given, y'all. Trust in our gut, that sixth sense, that is something in particular in the Black community that I truly believe that we undervalue and we underuse. Okay, and I'm speaking to myself first. I can definitely think about times where I did not trust my gut. I self-doubted. I second-guessed. And then it led me into making a poor decision. A decision where I'm like, if I would have been in my mind of trusting my gut and not being afraid to be like, you know what, I'm gonna hold off on that. If I would have had that kind of thought, then I wouldn't have made that poor decision. And I'm quite sure those of you who are listening can relate. And this is the beauty of being able to read these stories, right? Because they are learning when they're hearing these stories, when they're reading the stories on their own as well. It's the ability to notice patterns. When you have that intuition, when you trust your gut, the sixth sense, all you're doing is recognizing patterns. And then you're using the information to make good judgments. And the more our children practice thinking through situations in these particular stories that they're reading, the more they learn to trust their ability to critically think and make sound decisions. What did I just say? Right? I just gave you an example of how I can think of a time, and there are other times as well, where I did not trust my gut. I did not pay attention to myself. I second guessed. And then I wound up making a desperate decision or a poor decision. And that's why I'm always highly encouraging parents, please take the time, read to your children. If you can't physically read to them, have them listen to a book on audio. Make sure that they are reading as well, being in conversation, being in connection with these books. Point number three, reading helps children read the room. Okay, I know y'all know about reading the room. My grown folks, my adults out there, we know about reading the room, right? Picking up on them vibes, paying attention to what's going on, what's being said that ain't being said. Okay, one of the most important life skills is understanding people, understanding the situations that you are in. Don't walk around with this naivete thinking that, oh, it's gonna be fine. Case in point, I have to bring this up, right? So if we understand certain patterns, for example, living in a racist society that we live in, an anti-Black society, and we know that this society is known for doing demonic things like covering up the deaths of Black people. We know that this society is known for trying to make it seem as though things were an accident, but knowing dang on well that it was done intentionally. We've seen this time and time and time again. They don't change their playbook. We have to get to a point to where we trust ourselves and we understand that when folks are coming from a particular playbook, that we have to act accordingly. We can't put ourselves in positions where we know that people have shown themselves, they've shown their patterns, but then we keep thinking that, oh, it's going to be all right. They're the good ones. They're okay. And if you know what I'm talking about, right? And that's why, again, these points that I'm making, like this last one here, again, reading the room, how reading helps a child be able to do that. Strong readers pay attention to things like facial expressions, tone of voice, body language, motivations, emotions. Even when these things aren't directly stated in a story, readers learn to infer them, right? That's part of reading the room. When you go into a room and you notice that, folks, they ain't really trying to say nothing to you. You may have that one or two people trying to come, and they may want to come up to you and talk to you for a little minute, and you start and you realize that really they're just trying to get information. Ain't nobody really trying to feel you like that. If you know you in a situation like that, and especially with our young people, understanding that, then they have to pay attention, notice that, and then they have to be okay with making decisions like saying, you know what? This room, this place, this environment is not for me. So I'm about to dip on up out of here. We can't teach our babies that, oh, we got to give people a chance. If you see that people have shown themselves, they've shown the patterns, you look at the patterns because that's how you learn people. Remember, we are humans, so we do things in patterns, and you pay attention to that. And if you see that somebody is displaying a certain kind of way, then what you have to do is say, you know what? I'm not going to be down with that. I'm about to leave this situation. All right. So again, to bring up the points again, like I said, the first point that I made, and of course I'm looking down because I wanted to take notes, make sure that I stayed on point, right? So the first point that I made was reading teaches self-reflection. The second point, reading strengthens intuition, trust in your gut. And then the third point is I said that reading teaches you how to read the room. All of these things that I'm talking about, Black people, we need to be aware, and we need to get back to this is what our ancestors taught us, by the way. Our ancestors taught us these things just in their behaviors, in their lessons, in their conversations, right? And again, we cannot, especially now, in this society where folks are really, truly, they're taking the hoods off. They are like, damn this. I hate you. We anti-Black. We know we are. Now what? What you gonna do about it? This is the society that we are in, especially for those of you who, really paid attention when Trump got in office. Okay? Keeping it a buck. But what are we gonna do about it? Are we just going to keep thinking that, well, you know what? They're okay. This group of people over here, they're all right. You know what I'm saying? They're well-meaning. I'm gonna tell you now, especially if you see yourself, your Black child and your Black family, y'all the only Black family that's there, or it's just another Black family, trust and believe. You need to rethink being in that particular community. You need to read the room. You need to pay attention to what's going on. Because we're not in no society that says, oh, we're going to give these people the benefit of the doubt. And you know what I'm saying? And we're about, humanity and integrity and all. That's not what America was built on. And that part, I had to say this part at the end because of the stuff that we know is going on in this particular climate. And I'm going to keep it real a buck. This particular case with Nolan Wells and him being unalived and his so-called friends so-called friends there got conflicting stories, all of these different things. See, folks count on us not being able to follow stories and follow along. They want us to sit up here and be confused, because that's what the devil does. The devil loves confusion. But that's why I'm here to remind myself, as I'm reminding you all, we ain't gonna be confused, because we know what time it is. And we're going to trust our gut. We're going to follow our intuition. And that's what I'm hoping that you all are understanding the message that I'm putting down in this particular episode. So with that being said, you guys, I'm going to end right there. I thank you all again for listening to another episode of the Reading is Freedom podcast. I am your most gracious host, Miss Sasha. And remember that you must keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day, and reading is freedom. Peace. All right, everybody. I hope that you all enjoyed the episode of the Reading is Freedom podcast. And of course, most importantly, I hope that you all gained benefit as well. Just wanted to share with you all, I am a pre-K through fourth grade reading tutor, and I'm an Orton Gillingham certified dyslexia tutor. If you are in need of a reading tutor for your child, if they need that reading support, or if you just want to just keep them abreast of what they already know, then please reach out to me by going to abclearntutoring.com and click on the free reading assessment today. And yes, I do tutor online. Also, I'm the founder and executive director of ABC Read, a nonprofit organization that I started over 10 years ago with our mission to develop and nurture a culture of literacy in Black and underserved communities. If you would love to help out our organization by giving us donations, whether it is monetary, or you can also donate books, people have done that as well, please go to our website, abcread.org. And also, I wanted to share with you guys, of course, that, and you all, a lot of you see my podcast on my YouTube channel, Reading is Freedom. Make sure that you like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell, all right? So make sure that you guys are doing that. And if you are interested in getting my merch, Reading is Freedom, all right, merch, go to readingisfreedommovement.com, readingisfreedommovement.com as well. And I just wanted to share with you guys this book that I've been reading, all right? Malcolm in the Desert, Wisdom from the Spiritual Transformation of Malcolm X, by his beloved, beautiful, extremely brilliant daughter, Ilyasah Shabazz, all right? This book right here, little close to halfway through the book, and I love how she is connecting him making the Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and him making that Hajj, and how she's relating that Hajj, that spiritual journey, and how we all go through spiritual journeys and, different transformations in our lives. And so it's definitely an eye-opener. I believe truly that books find us, all right? Meaning that this book right here, this book found me. All right, I'm in a place in my life where I'm definitely thinking, of a lot of options, all right, that I think is very important for us to think about, especially as Black folks here in this place that has been anti-Black, okay? So with that being said, I hope that, again, this was very beneficial. I thank you all for listening. And also, I'll have the link in the description for you guys to grab a copy of this book here, the book that I have co-written with other 9 beautiful women, Her, Healed, Empowered, Resilient. You can grab your copy from Amazon as well. All right, you guys. So thank you all again for listening to another episode of the Reading is Freedom podcast. And you all take care. And please remember to keep reading for at least 30 minutes a day. And remember, reading is freedom. Peace.